guys, and welcome back to Mellyns. So today it's just Mel again, and we're going to talk about some of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. So we wanted to do each month kind of take a category and talk about some of our favorite products in that category, and this month just happened to be eye palettes. I have a whole bunch of different eye palettes here. They're just sitting in front of me. I actually have 7, which seems like a lot, but I have a few high-end palettes and then a few more affordable palettes, and then also I have like my favorite travel palette. So definitely different categories here to talk about. I just wanted to have a wide range of things, kind of something for everybody and something for every occasion. So I guess I'll just start off with the high end and then kind of work my way down to the affordable, and then we'll talk about the travel one last. So we're going to get right into it. So my first favorite high-end palette or more expensive palette is the Kat Von D Shade and Light eye palette. And this palette is just full of really beautiful matte shades. That's what it looks like. I'm sure everybody's seen this or heard about this. I mean, it's talked about a lot because it's just a great eye palette. I mean, the shadows are really buttery and smooth and easy to blend. They're very pigmented. I will say you get a little bit of fallout with some of the like darker colors, but it's not horrible to the point where you can't, like, it's unusable. I've had eyeshadow palettes in the past where there's so much fallout that I'm like, this just isn't even worth it for an everyday use. Like, so that was my first palette. So now we're going to get into the second palette, and this is kind of newer. I think it came out about a month ago, and it's the NARS Narcissist palette, and I'll just open it. I recently just bought this. I'm going to try not to blind you guys. I have something sitting on my desk that is full of all the makeup that I'm currently using or that are my favorites at the time, and it gets switched out a little often, you know, when I come across a new product that I love. And ever since I bought this palette, it's been sitting in my palette section of my favorites thing on my desk. I think the colors are really great. There's a lot of warm toned colors in here, which I really like. I love a warm eye look. I think it just works better with my skin tone, with my eye color. So I love that this palette has a lot of those colors. There are a few cool shades, which sometimes when I do want to do cool toned looks, I definitely reach for this palette. It has, I can't do quick math, it has 5 matte shades, and then the rest are these kind of metallic-y, I wouldn't say glittery because they're not quite glittery, but they definitely have a sheen to them. I've used pretty much all of the shades in this palette except for this dark shade right here. Just again, I don't really use a lot of black or dark gray eyeshadow just because if I'm going to go for a dark eyeshadow, I'm probably going to go for a dark brown, something more chocolatey. I think it just looks better with my eye color and skin tone. Like I said before, warm tones just always seem to work better on me for some reason. So I've never tested out this one, but I've used pretty much all the other colors in this palette, and the shadows are really, really amazing. They're very easy to blend, there's no fallout whatsoever, they're very creamy, they're very pigmented. The shimmer shades I love using just by themselves, or sometimes I even spray Fix Plus on them, and you know, it just enhances that sheen. So they're really great eyeshadows. This palette is a little pricey. I think it was $59, almost $60. But again, I feel like NARS products are always just a little bit more expensive, but they are amazing quality. I'm a huge NARS fan. I love all of their products. I don't think there's a single product that I've tried from them that I can say that I dislike. Actually, that might not be true. There's one foundation that just doesn't work for my skin, but it's a beautiful foundation. I wish it worked for my skin. Unfortunately, it does not. But moving on, most of the other products from NARS I absolutely love. Their Sheer Glow foundation is one of my all-time favorites. I love their lipsticks. Their products are just amazing, and this eye palette is no exception. So definitely something, if you're looking for a higher end eye palette, I would definitely check this out. So my next palette that I'm going to talk about is the Tartelette in Bloom palette. And I had never used this palette because I have so many eyeshadow palettes, and every time I would go to look at it, I was like, you know what, I have colors that look like this, I have palettes that are similar to this, I just not really sure I need it. Oh, it smells so good. But Tarte was doing a their friends and family sale. When was that? It was when I went to Florida, so a couple weeks ago, at the end of, or about a month ago now. Geez, time flies so fast. But anyway, so I picked this up during that friends and family sale because, you know, I have an addiction to eyeshadow palettes and I needed this one even though I really didn't need it. But since I bought it, it's actually been sitting with the NARS palette up in on my desk where all my like makeup I use every day is, because it's really, really great. I mean, it's as amazing as everyone says it is, and I'm sad that I'm just starting to realize that. So it has a ton of matte shades. There are actually only 3 shimmer shades, which I kind of like because I feel like in some palettes when they put too many shimmer shades, there's not enough matte shades to create like that cohesive look, and I really like matte shades more than I like shimmer shades, so you know, that's why I love the Kat Von D palette, because it's all matte. But this palette did a really good job of making sure that there was enough matte shades in a nice range so that you could create a full eye look. And then to top it off, there are these 3 very beautiful glittery shimmery shades. So these eyeshadows are super soft, they're super pigmented. I'm going to say that about 100 times in this video because that's what the top things I look for in an eyeshadow. I think it's the top things everybody looks for in an eyeshadow. There's hardly any fallout with these. I think I've pretty much used all of these. There isn't a true black in this palette, so some people might not enjoy that because I know black eyeshadow is something that a lot of people use. But I'm personally not a person that uses black eyeshadow, so I don't mind. I like that the darkest color in here is this dark brown over here. I'm just more apt to use a dark brown than I am a black, so this palette was perfect for me in that sense. But I definitely think this is a great, like, basic, warm toned eye palette. My first most affordable palette that I love, which I struggled putting this in here because it was limited edition between Morphe and Kathleen Lights. It's the Kathleen Lights palette, and we'll just open it up and show you what it looks like. Oh, the plastic's in here too. That's weird. I never keep those. So this is what it looks like. I went back and forth about talking about this one because you can no longer get this palette, but it's the Morphe palette that I've used the most, so I think it's the one that I know the most about. And even though you can't get this palette anymore, there are a ton of Morphe palettes that are probably just as amazing as this one, so we're really just going to talk about this not because you can go run out and get the palette, but as a way to kind of tell you about the Morphe eyeshadows in general, and if there are other palettes that you are looking to buy from them, I'm sure they're just as amazing. So I recently just bought the 35R palette, and I've only used it once, I think, in our first impressions video. I think I can never open it. Oh, there it goes. So I'm excited to play with this one more, and I'm assuming that it's just as good as the Kathleen Lights one, but I haven't used it that much, so I can't really talk about it in this video. But anyway, so back to the Kathleen Lights palette. I love this palette because, again, it's very warm toned, especially in here. And Kathleen has said in multiple of her videos she likes warm eyeshadow looks. That's why I like watching her. She's one of my favorites on YouTube, just because I think we have very similar likes and dislikes. So especially when she goes for eyeshadow looks, I tend to gravitate towards her looks over other beauty gurus, just because I think we have similar skin tones and it's just the looks I like to go for. So when she made this palette, I knew it was going to be amazing because it's Kathleen and, you know, everything she does is amazing. But these eyeshadows are really great quality. They're super pigmented. They're super easy to blend. I think these are some of the most blendable eyeshadows I've ever used, especially from an affordable brand. I mean, this palette was, I think, $15 when it was available, and you get all of these eyeshadows. I don't know how Morphe makes these such incredible products for so cheap, but I mean, every product I've ever bought from them, I've never been disappointed. Brushes, I have one of their liquid lipsticks, I have this palette, like, I mean, incredible. And Lyn feels the same way. I mean, she's actually the one who before this collab, I didn't really know a lot about Morphe. I'd heard people talk about them, but I never really ordered from them. And then when this happened, I was like, well, now I need to order from them because it's Kathleen and she's my favorite YouTuber. So we bought this palette, and I bought a ton of other stuff from them, and I fell in love with everything. So I have a ton of brushes from them that are also my favorites. So I think they just make really, really great quality products, and their eyeshadows are probably some of the best quality eyeshadows that I've ever used. But along about this palette, I love the warm tones. I love that she also put cool tones up here, and I also love that she kind of went out of the box a little bit with this green. I mean, a lot of palettes you'll see are just very neutral and very, you know, safe almost, but I love that she added this pop of color. And she did a tutorial with this palette when it first released, and she used this green color, and it was absolutely beautiful. I haven't had the guts to actually use this eyeshadow. I spend a lot of time at home because I'm a freelance designer and I don't really get out of the house very much because I work from home, so I don't have a lot of places to wear a crazy eye look out, but I'm hoping once summer hits I'll have a place to go to use this, and I really want to experiment with this. The one shadow in here that I definitely won't ever use again is the black, because I don't use black eyeshadow, but other than that, I really love this palette. So I would definitely, even though you can't get this anymore, I would definitely check out Morphe's other palettes. They have great palettes that are big, like obviously these ones, but they also have some smaller palettes that are more travel friendly and this size, so definitely check those out. My next affordable eyeshadow palette, actually my two next affordable eyeshadow palettes, the other two, are from Wet n Wild. I bought this one first because Kathleen used it. You're going to hear me say that a lot about things because usually when she likes things, I go out and buy them. So I bought this palette after Kathleen used it, and I brought it to Florida with me. And I used it while I was in Florida, most of the time I was down there, and I fell in love with it. Now, I'm trying not to blind you guys, but this palette doesn't open all the way, so I'm sorry. So this is what it looks like. Let's see if it'll actually zoom. Oh my god, look at that. Focus works. So this is what it looks like. It has some really pretty, this one's like duochrome almost. I don't know if you can see that, and it's not going to focus for me. Oh, there it goes. So that's really cool that it has one of the, has a shadow like that. And then it also has some really pretty like neutrally colors up here, and then some more darker colors down here, and then green, which like I don't even know what to do with. It's beautiful, and I want to try it out so bad, like the green in this palette, but I'm so not adventurous, and so if anybody has any tips on how to be adventurous with some green eyeshadow, let me know. But anyway, so I think the quality of these eyeshadows are really great, and this palette too. I'll get to this one in a second. These shadows are so buttery and soft, and they're so easy to blend. They're pretty well pigmented for a drugstore palette. I've used drugstore palettes that are very like powdery and just not great, but these are amazing. And I think this palette was only like $8 or something crazy like that. I don't even know if it was $8. I could totally have been making that up, but it was pretty inexpensive. And I actually haven't used all of these shadows, but I've used quite a few, and every time I dip my fingers into them, like, I cannot believe how amazing they are. It is not gonna focus. Oh, there it goes. So I don't know if you could actually really see these, but they're super soft, super buttery. There's no fallout whatsoever. I mean, I actually haven't used these two colors, these three colors here. I've only used these, so I can't speak for these three. But in these other four, right? 5. That's 5. There's no fallout whatsoever. They're super easy to blend. I mean, this is a great palette. I think this will be really great moving into spring and summer. I'll definitely get a lot of use out of this. They are, I will say, they are a little bit, they're not like super shimmery, but they're definitely more of a sheen to them. They're not completely matte. But, you know, sometimes you want just some shimmer on your eye or some sheen. You don't want to go completely matte, which is why I think this will be great for summer and spring when we get into those warmer months. Sometimes I like to do more shimmery eyes in the summer and more matte in the fall and winter, so I think this will be great for then. But great palette from Wet n Wild. I would definitely check this out. For the price, you can not beat this at all. I will definitely leave all of these palettes linked below. The next affordable palette I'm going to talk about is this Wet n Wild one, the All Natural Nude Awakening palette. And we actually used this in our dupe or duped video, the first one, which I'm pretty sure is going up before this video. I hope it is. Otherwise, I just gave it away. And this is what it looks like. We duped this against the Naked 3, I believe. And while all the colors aren't the same as the Naked 3, it's super similar. And it's funny, we actually liked this palette more than the Naked palette, which The reason for that is I just feel like the Naked palette doesn't have enough mattes in it, whereas this one has quite a few. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matte, 6 matte shades, I can't do math, in this palette, where I think the Naked one only has like 2 or 3. So that's why I like this one better. And again, these shadows are super soft, super easy to blend. They're super pigmented for an eyeshadow palette that's $10. I think this is definitely a great alternative to the Naked palette. I think for the price you just can't beat it, and if you're someone who's new to makeup and you've always wanted to try the Naked palette but you don't want to spend the $54 on it, I think this is a great alternative to check out first because it's the same color range. Some of the shades are super similar, almost identical, but this does have some different shades in it. Some of the darker ones are a little different, but I don't mind that. I think this palette is amazing. I think the matte shades are amazing. The glittery shades also amazing. I've only used them with Fix Plus. I've never used them just by themselves, but I'm sure they're just as good by themselves as they are with Fix Plus because the mattes are amazing. So I think Wet n Wild really has some great eyeshadows between the two of these. We only have one more palette to talk about, and that's my favorite travel palette. Now, I don't travel a ton, but when I do travel, I'm very cautious with my makeup. I mean, you spend a lot of money on it, you don't want it to get ruined when you travel, so I always struggle with what palettes to bring because I'm very indecisive. I like to do a variety of things, or I think I like to do a variety of things with my eye looks. In reality, I like to do warm toned eye looks, and I have about 20 different palettes that could make probably the same or similar eye look, but for some reason I think they're all different. So when I travel, it's usually very hard for me to pick out 1 or 2 palettes that I want to bring and not want to bring 6 more. But since I bought this little Visor palette, this has been the only thing that I travel with. It's amazing, it's compact, and the eyeshadows are absolutely beautiful. And even though they're very warm toned and kind of similar to other shadows that I have, I think with them you can make a ton of different looks. So there's 3 matte shades and there's 3 shimmer shades. And now I use these 3 matte shades every single time to kind of create that base eye look, but then depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I can use any of these to kind of spice it up. So if I'm going for a more dramatic look, I'll use the darker metallic shade. If I'm going for a more natural look, I'll skip this dark brown and just go in with these 2 colors and then pop on some of this lighter shade. So I think even though there's only 6 eyeshadows in here, it's a great range of looks you can make with them. And I never used any Visor eyeshadows before because who wants to spend $80 on an eyeshadow palette? Not me. So I had never tried any of their stuff out, but as soon as I saw this, I knew I had to have it, and these shadows are amazing. They're super soft, super buttery, they blend amazing. These are so pigmented. The first time I went to use it, I royally messed up because I just like dipped my brush in, tapped it off, and like just went in, and it was like way too much product, and I was like, whoa. I was just blown away by how pigmented they were. Now I'm a little bit more careful. And now that I've used them a few times, that doesn't happen anymore. But, you know, sometimes with the first time you use something, it's a learning curve. But these eyeshadows are great, and it's actually made me want to buy the bigger palette, the $80 one. Oh, that's a tough sentence to say, because this just blew me away. They're really amazing, and I think this was $45, so it's kind of pricey for only 6 eyeshadows, but for the quality, I don't mind paying it. They also have a smaller version of a palette like this. I can't remember what it's called, but I think there might be 6 or 8 shadows in it. But the pans are a lot smaller than these, but it's only $35. So, I mean, if you did really want to test them out, that's definitely a great option. I think it's pretty warm toned too. With this palette, this is actually the Theory palette, and I know they have a few different ones of like the 6 like this. There's a more cool toned one, there's a more bronzy one, this is the more like browny neutrally. I definitely want to try out more of their eyeshadows, so maybe I'll buy another small palette before I dive into the $80 one, but I think these are definitely something to check out if you're in the market for a good high-end palette. I would definitely say this is probably the most high-end palette of my favorites. I mean, with exception to, I guess, the NARS is pretty on par with this too. This is a little bit more expensive, I guess, because the full palette's $80. But I just think they're really, really great, and if you're in the market for that, definitely check them out. That's my favorite eyeshadow palettes. Originally, when we planned this video, there was only supposed to be 5, but I could not just choose 5, so I chose all of those. But I hope this video helped someone out there, and I hope you guys found it interesting. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We love that you guys keep coming back and watching. It really means a lot to us, considering we never thought this was going to be possible, but now it is. So that's all I have for you guys, but I look forward to seeing you in our next video, and Lyn will be back in our next video, don't you worry. So we'll see you then. Bye!